Yo, what up guys? And today will be a review for the brand new debut solo album by Brendon called Galaktikon. Now, if you don't know who Brendon is, he's essentially the main head leader of Deathclock, a fictional band that is on the show Metalocalypse. And this is basically solo work. It's much different than Metalocalypse, but equally as enjoyable. Now, the first thing you'll notice compared to Deathclock is that Deathclock is much more of a death metal, melodic death metal orientated / neoclassical. This album is much more of kind of like conventional old school, like Iron Maiden meets Merciful Fate meets Metallica. Very old school sound, very cool sounding. Now, some people have been comparing this to Gwar or Devin Townsend as far as production and storyline. That's very reasonable, and I think because basically the whole storyline is about a superhero who goes through a divorce, who's basically his wife is kidnapped by his archenemy. It's really funny, but it really goes well. Let's get into the lyrics. The lyrics on this album are over the top, but they perfectly flow with the whole story he came up with. Essentially, the whole album is basically an audible comic book, which I think is really cool and which really fits with the album. Brendon's voice on this is absolutely amazing. I did not know he had this good of a regular clean tone voice. His melodic vocals are very good. He never goes into a growl or anything like that. Maybe a shout once or twice, but his vocals are phenomenal. They soar with the guitar work to make absolutely great vocal melodies along with like a guitar melody to make something that's really cool. Another thing is that the sound of the guitars is much different. Now the riffs are still fantastically technical and complicated, but at the same time very catchy, like some of Deathclock works, but at the same time much more melodic. It's not just straight. It's much more rock oriented to old school, like heavy metal. Like I wouldn't be surprised if some of these riffs were on, say, old school Iron Maiden or even a Merciful Fate album, and they really are just catchy, full of great melodies that kind of bring out the happiness in you and go great along with the story. Like at certain parts, the guitars are much more energetic, a little more aggressive. They go well with the lyrics. Bass, unfortunately, is not very audible. There's nothing really special about it, unfortunately, but he does make what he can. The drums in this album, are very good. One major difference is that with Deathclock, it was much more death metal oriented. This time it is much more a lot of the songs are mid fast paced, and the drums really go along nicely. There's some nice double bass work, nothing too crazy, but the drums are nice and always going through with a nice heavy metal, old school heavy metal feel to them. Some kind of like some Motorhead songs. There's also a nice little atmosphere around this whole album. It just feels, like he said, with this being an audible comic book, essentially you feel like you're going through this entire like crazy over-the-top journey through the hero's eyes, and you can just sense that throughout the whole album. I mean, just look at the album cover, man, you'll know what I'm saying. It reeks of pure awesome. That's the only thing I can say about Galaktikon. It's pure awesome. When I first heard about he was doing some solo work, I was really excited to see what he came up with, and he nailed it on the fucking head. It's fantastic. It's a truly enjoyable album for anybody who loves heavy metal of any sort, whether it be old school, extreme, really melodic, or just loves Brendon guitar work. Really awesome album, really fun, catchy, unbelievably crazy story. That's all I've got to say. This is a really cool album. Subscribe and comment. Peace.